This meeting will come to order, and I'll ask Ms. Jenkins if she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Waller, certification of the closed meeting.
Resolution of certification of the closed meeting of July 11th, 2019, pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended.
So move.
Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
No.
Board Member Story,
No.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item is approval of our agenda. This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Whoa. I move that, I want to have a discussion on this one, please. The reason I think our number 6 of adding this new section to our policy coming from board norms, protocols, and violations should be pulled out. And I think that first we should be given time to read that. And this particular directive and this going from this into policy, I would like to see that pulled out of new business and delayed for another time. And so I would like to amend Ms. Mayo's motion to give time to look at, first of all, I think some things need to be looked into as to whether they are legal. And I think we need additional counsel and advice as to whether how that is written is legal. And I would just like to delay looking at that particular, how that was written and put together for another time. So that's my amendment to the motion.
And this is under new business.
This is approving the agenda.
And which items under new business?
Number 6.
Number 6.
Yes. And I thought we were pulling number 3 and 4 as well, under new business, on agenda
I thought we were
item.
going to do that when we got to new business, but if we need to do that, we can do 2 separate motions, because I'm getting confused about the motion is to accept, and you want to amend the motion.
I want to amend
to
that motion
accept.
to withdraw number 6
From the agenda.
from the agenda.
To amend her motion.
In order to amend the motion, the one who made the main motion would need to accept the amendment.
I thought it needs a second for an amendment. So she has to accept the amendment?
Because you can't have 2 motions on the floor at the same time.
I'm not accepting the amendment. We're presenting it as, doing it as presented.
Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
No.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story.
No.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
Can I ask why we're not using I just want to know, how come we're not using the electronic voting? Why, can we use the electronic voting, please?
Apparently that is not working tonight.
Apparently, I mean, every time city council is in, this works. Every time we're in here, it doesn't seem to work. I don't understand.
Our system.
So maybe we can look into getting, whoever can get it to work for city council. I think we need, I mean, this happens repeatedly, and I think we need to get whoever runs it for city council needs to come and help us run this so that we can vote all at the same time, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we remove under new business items 3 and 4. The policy committee met, and we have a recommendation for that. So I'd like to move that we remove items 3 and 4 under new business.
Madam Chair, if I may, I believe that the last motion was one to approve the agenda,
Oh, and we said so.
and so the agenda has now been approved.
So we didn't get it.
If someone wants something done with regard to those two items now on the approved agenda, you could ask when it comes up to table those.
Okay.
And you could ask that they be tabled indefinitely. And when you table something indefinitely, it pretty much goes away.
Any public speakers on agenda topics?
No one is signed up at this time.
All right, thank you. Next, we have reports by the superintendent, Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure this evening to call to the podium Beth Ann Bradshaw, our Public Information and Communications Officer, and she's going to share with us tonight the 2019 graduation highlights. We are very proud of all the accomplishments of our students in the class of 2019, so thank you, Ms. Bradshaw.
Excuse me. Each month we take this opportunity to share with you and our viewers at home some of the great things that happen in our schools each and every day, the accomplishments of our staff and students. So tonight we wanted to continue a tradition, I guess, we started, or what we started last year was sharing some of the graduation highlights this year from the class of 2019. So just a few quick things that we pulled together, our number of graduates. I think you have a sheet in your packet as well. It's gone up slightly from the previous year as we grow. Scholarship totals, a significant increase from last year, which was closer to 12 million. Community service hours, and these are just the ones that are reported by the students, because of course they only have to really report the 50 to meet their graduation requirement, so there's probably many, many more, but even those reported are up by several thousand. Industry credentials earned, this is through the career and technical education programs. It's also a graduation requirement, I believe, and those have gone up by about 400. And then the other pieces of graduates are our summer graduations. This is our anticipated number. And then those in the year who have earned their GEDs. So, just wanted to let you know about that. Do you have any questions?
Oh, I just have a comment.
Yep.
I was so thrilled when I saw the hours that the students had done, that particular program has really taken off, and they've done a really good job, and we're impressed when they come up and talk to us about it when they come for the honors program. But I think it was a great decision we made a while back, and as I see other people are behind us in implementing this kind of thing, it really does make me feel good. The other thing is, of course, almost $25 million in scholarships. That speaks volumes, absolutely, about what people have done, what students, parents, and our staff and our people in our schools have done to help our students do well. Colleges and universities don't give away that kind of money for people who are not prepared, so it speaks volumes, as well as the industry credentials. All of this is exciting to me, and I just want to say thank you to all of you who played a role in this.
I'll say ditto to all of that. You know, we have a lot to be proud of. Those scholarship funds, I think, for most of those schools, I've been following those for many years, and I think every school, you know, really did an excellent job this year. I commend those guidance counselors and those teachers that work with those students, because that takes a lot of hard work, and it does speak volumes about what we are doing in Suffolk Public Schools. Dr. Harrison, next on our list.
So next up, we have our summer facilities maintenance projects update, and this was by board request to update the board on some of our key projects that are taking place in our schools throughout the summer. So I'm going to call to the podium our Director of Facilities, Mr. Terry Napier, and you have in your board books a full listing of the summer projects. Mr. Napier is just going to take a moment to highlight a few, and then we'll take questions that you might have.
Good evening.
Good
You
evening.
do have the list. We're not going to go over all of those, and as you can see, there's quite a few of them. But we are going to highlight some of the larger projects. At John Yates Middle School, we are doing an exterior upgrade there, in which we are replacing tile walls there on the exterior with platinum panels. We're removing the bus canopy over there, putting in a new bus canopy at the main entryway. We're replacing 2 sets of exterior doors at the auditorium with a set of storefront doors similar to what's at the main entrance at John Yates now. We are replacing all of the other exterior doors with new doors and having all of those painted, new doors and hardware. We are repairing, caulk, and repaint all the windows and exterior metal, replacing all of that front concrete walkway area over there with new concrete, and painting the rest of the exterior as needed. So there's quite a lot that's going on at John Yates Middle School this summer. In addition to that, we have a number of things at each of our schools, but if you move down your list, at Hill Point Elementary School, we have some major roof work repairs going on there. Booker T. Washington, we are replacing all of the student chairs and all of the student desks in that building on August the 12th. At Mac Ben, we are doing interior painting for that entire building. Elephants Fork Elementary School, we have some playground equipment replacement going on. Nansemond Parkway, we are also replacing all of the student desks and chairs at Nansemond Parkway, along with installing restroom hand dryers at that building. At Northern Shores, we're replacing the hot water heaters in the mechanical room. We also have playground repairs going on at that site. At Lakeland High School, we have HVAC replacement. This is phase 2. This is all of the classroom units. If you recall, we've already done the mechanical room at that school and Nansemond River as well. We have converted the tower at Lakeland so that we have gotten away from the 3-day switchover between heating and cooling, and we can do it now in about an hour. We are also doing that at Nansemond River, replacing all of the classroom unit ventilators, all the fan coil units in both buildings, putting in isolation valves which were not put in at the time of construction. And we're also converting the tower and installing a tower heater at Nansemond River so that we can also have the ability there to do the heat and cooling switch over in about an hour and a half versus 3 days. At all of the buildings, we have gym floor refinishing going on at all of our wood floors, our wood gymnasium floors. All of the elementary playgrounds get new mulch every summer. That's going on. We have some parking lot and striping repairs going on, bleacher inspections, grease trap pump outs. So there's a lot going on. That is not the list in its entirety, but as you see, we're busy. Any questions about any of that?
Anybody have any questions? Ms.
I'm
Jenkins?
sorry. Can you tell me something specifically about if you're doing anything for John F. Kennedy? Did I not hear
John
that?
F. Kennedy, they are getting STEAM lab furniture, athletic uniform replacement, which is not a facilities upgrade, and they're also getting, we're having a hair inspections there. But if you recall, a couple of years ago, we did an extensive upgrade at John F. Kennedy, where we painted the entire inside and outside. We redid the parking lot there. So a couple of years ago, John F. Kennedy, it was their turn that year, and they had a lot of work done there.
When was the year it flooded?
What was that?
Flooded one year. We had a flooded.
At Kennedy?
Uh-huh.
I believe that was,
We had to do some work.
yeah, that was prior to us doing the upgrade. We had a flood in the auditorium also. Kennedy's prone to flood during heavy thunderstorms anyway, in the auditorium. We had a French drain installed a couple of years ago. We brought a contractor in. That has helped. We did have a little bit with the last large rain, but nothing like we've experienced in the past. So I don't know if there's a way for us to completely remedy that, but we certainly have minimized it.
Any other questions?
At Kilby Shores, what are you doing after the flood this spring? What has been done on the inside?
The work at Kilby Shores is complete. I can give you, there's nothing else going on there this summer, but I can give you a breakdown of what has already taken place there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
What was that?
That would be great if you could.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to run down the overview of what happened at that school, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you.
During spring break, the week of April the 15th, there was a flood in the music room at Kilby Shores that resulted from a failed water pipe that was feeding an HVAC unit in that room. It was discovered by the school on the day that we came back from spring break. The unit was fixed on that Monday, and then the following remediation steps were taken. April the 22nd through April the 29th, water extraction and drying services were brought in by ServPro. Those were completed the week of April 29th. April 29th through May 13th, drywall and carpet removal in both the music room and the art room took place. That was also done by ServPro. May the 15th, Taylor Enterprises went in and began replacing the drywall and finishing all of the drywall. Shortly after that, Cherry Carpet was brought in to replace all of the flooring in the music room. On May the 7th, Marine Chemist Service conducted a visual mold inspection and random air sampling throughout that building. We did that as a preliminary test so that we would have something to compare to after the work was complete. HVAC unit coils, as a result of those tests, HVAC unit coils and drip pans in the music room and room 33 were chemically cleaned. A second set of air samples was taken by Marine Chemist. I'm not sure if I have the date. I do. On June the 17th, and all of those tests came back satisfactory. So it was a mess in that music room at Kilby Shores. It took us a long time. We were not able to open that room before school ended, even though the work was finished, because we wanted to wait for Marine Chemists to go in there and do their second set of samples, which they did. They wrote us a clearance letter. On that day, we called the principal and said, you can open your room back up. It's been cleared as far as Marine Chemist is concerned. So that's what took place there. We think everything that happened there was taken care of in the right way. We had the right contractors in there, and we don't believe we have a situation there at this point.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Napier. Dr. Harrison?
Yes, and next on the agenda, under reports by the superintendent, you'll see the calendar of special events, and I just wanted to highlight some of the key events that are going to be happening throughout the months of July, August, and the beginning of September. So we have on July 23rd, the VSBA Conference on Education. On July 23rd, we also have, occurring in Virginia Beach, the Excellence Through Equity Region 2 Conference. July 30th through August 1st, we have our administrative retreat. On July 31st, we're going to be having our high school, summer school graduation. August 19th, we will host the new teacher orientation, the new teacher breakfast. And then the 19th through the 21st of August, new teacher orientation. August 22nd through 23rd, division-wide staff development. August 26th through the 30th, pre-service week, and then, of course, the first day of school on September 3rd, and that completes our reports, the reports by the superintendent. I'll turn it
Thank you.
back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Next, the consent agenda. If you'll look that over, please. This is an action item.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
There is no unfinished business. Moving to new business, we need to schedule a closed meeting for July 17th. We meet with the city for a joint meeting that afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we're asking that we schedule a meeting at 6 o'clock on the same day in the school board administrative offices, and at that time, we will work on personnel items. Is there,
Madam Chair, will we
motion?
have the materials ahead of time so we can be prepared for that meeting?
yes, we're planning to cover that when we go back in closed session later. We will be receiving some information on that, yes.
So will that be included then in the motion to go back into closed session as to what those items are?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Was there an option day and time? Their special ed advisory committee meets that evening at 6:30.
I just suggested that date since I knew you would all be here for the city
Well, we
meeting.
thought, we would move from one meeting to the other. We could meet, what time is your meeting, Mr. Mitnick?
It starts at 6:30.
6:30.
And I would like to attend that meeting as well at 6:30.
6:30.
Mhm.
Possibly we could move it to 5:30?
It doesn't allow very much time, unless you'd like to meet before you go to the city meeting.
Yes, we could meet before. Can people meet before the 4 o'clock meeting with the city,
Or another date.
or another date, which would be more appropriate?
I think we may have to just choose another day because I work, so I don't have the liberty to just come before 4.
So another day would probably be better then. Any suggestions on another day? Do you want to keep it at the same time, just a different date? For those that work?
Could we move it to the following week?
Would not be able to do it on the 23rd, because that is the day you'll
Right.
be attending the VSBA Richmond Conference.
Right.
I'm personally available on the 22nd, the 25th, and the 26th. And I'm off on the 25th. I can be available.
That'd be something we can
Any
do, 25th at
suggestions
6
then?
o'clock.
25th.
At 6.
I'm available on the 25th.
25th? Everybody think that would be okay? Okay. On the 25th at 6 o'clock? Keep it at 6. There a motion for that?
I move that we meet on the 25th, our closed meeting, in consideration of the personnel matters on the 25th at 6 p.m. Will that work for you? Oh, okay, well, wait a minute. Let me amend that motion. Look at your calendar. Go back to the 17th.
Or the 18th next week, or 16th, Tuesday.
16th would be better. I'm gone. 18th and 19th.
If we're all going to be here that day, is it possible,
17th.
the 17th, is it possible immediately following the joint meeting, we immediately get into it? Immediately following the joint meeting, we get into it. And if you have to leave, you have to leave. I mean, if you pick a date that I can't be there, that's fine. I just want you all to know that I can't be there. But we've been delaying it a little too long to keep prolonging this. Going to eventually not get done.
Is this a time-sensitive
Yeah.
meeting
Yes.
about
Yes.
what?
Dealing with evaluations and so forth. Yes.
So we're dealing with evaluations and what else?
Basically,
And
what-
any personnel issues that might occur, such as personnel changes after the 15th of July. Right, there could be some things that we need to deal with. Yeah.
May I ask Karen, are you going to be gone the entire week of the 25th?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
maybe we go back to what you said. We're going to all be here, and you all have to go to a meeting. So if you all have to leave because that meeting takes precedent over what we're doing, then that might be so. But since we're going to all be here on the 17th, it appears to me to make sense to move forward with that. So I'm going to move that we move forward with the 17th at 6 p.m., if that's the case, or as soon, I'll say this, as soon as the other meeting is over, because it may indeed be over before that time. So that's a motion. I move that we do that. The last one was about an hour.
I second the motion. And just a little discussion, we're only evaluating 2 employees, correct? So that it shouldn't take that long.
To do. Right.
Okay.
Did you want to give a time period at all, or just say,
As soon as the other meeting is over, when the other meeting ends, or following the city council meeting.
Move to the central office as soon as we can. Right.
Could we check and see if there was a conference room available in this building, so we wouldn't have to?
City council is
They're going to
using
be used.
their
Well,
Well, I
they
mean, there
have
are
other-
other conference rooms in the
Yeah,
building.
we could go to upstairs. Yeah,
we could leave the location off,
off,
and I could
yes.
check tomorrow?
right.
And let's
Okay,
keep in
that
mind,
sounds good.
we do have a library across the street that has a conference room as well. That way you don't have to go driving down the road. It's just across the street.
Correct.
It would probably allow us to use another room upstairs. Right.
Motion is on the floor to hold the special closed meeting on July 17th, immediately following the city council meeting, at a location to be determined.
Yes, and it was seconded. Mr. Riddick seconded.
Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes,
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Chairman Byram?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item is ordinance 19/20-2, adding a new section, Chapter 8, Article 18, Section 9-18.8, entitled Hearing Before Pupil Personnel Committee, Procedure to be Followed, Appeal before the School Board of the Policies of the Suffolk City School Board. This is a first reading and adoption.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the policy. We reviewed it earlier, and so I move that we adopt it.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
The next is ordinance 1920-4, adding a new section, Chapter 8, Article 32, Section 8-32.1, entitled Class Rank Determined, the Policies of the Suffolk City School Board. First reading and adoption.
Madam Chair, I would request that we table this. The policy committee discussed this issue, and we'll have another proposal to bring back to the board. So I move that we table this indefinitely.
I second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item, ordinance 19/20-5, amending Section 8, Chapter 8, Article 31, Section 8-31.4, entitled Assessment and Grading Defined, reporting student progress, multifaceted process, grading scale, grading and assessment schedule to be established by the superintendent of the policies of the Suffolk City School Board. First reading and adoption.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we that we table this indefinitely. Again, it's related to the discussion that we have had, and we'll come back with a new recommendation for the board.
Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next, ordinance 19/20-1, adding a new section, Chapter 1, Article 7, Section 1-7.1, entitled Use of Social Media Supported, Employee Rights under First Amendment, in-school and out-of-school use of social media, balancing of rights, social media defined, superintendent to develop regulations of the policies of the Suffolk School Board. This is first reading. Any conversation, concerns on that? This is informational item. I think we've received information on that. Next item, ordinance 19/20-3, adding a new section, Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2.2.6, entitled School Board Norms, Protocols, Violations of the Policies of the Suffolk School Board. This is first reading. Any discussion on that?
Ask that we consider delaying this, and that the board vote no on this until we can, I guess, more thoroughly vet what's been written, make sure that it's compliant with the law. And so I would like to suggest and ask that people vote against this being put into just the first reading of it until we can have time to look at how it's written and make changes.
Yes.
Mr. Waller, this policy has been vetted with.
I did review it, and I believe that it is legally defensible.
This is the one that was recommended by the Virginia School Board Association.
Actually, this was written by us. This wasn't recommended. All of these were written from the documents that were approved at the March meeting, but then they have been nuanced. They have been added to. It's a much larger policy document than just what we looked at and what was agreed to at the March 15th meeting. And to turn them to go from norms into policy, that directive, to do that from the board occurred in a closed meeting when I had been asked to leave that meeting, and it occurred when I was not there.
If I remember correctly, this was voted on at the last meeting that we move in this direction to put this into policy.
I would take exception to that. This was done in a closed session. It has been affirmed by another board member that you did this in closed session after you had asked me to leave the meeting.
Let me just add that all of you received a copy of this on June 20th because all of you are on the email. So there's not a person who was not aware of this, and I'll resend it if you're not. But I think at this point, we've been on this subject since January, and just a point of correction. These things originated with the Virginia School Boards Association recommending that we take this action as a method to govern ourselves. We are not the only system. We've researched it. We've talked about it since January, and it is July, and it's either time to move on or let it go. It's not that complicated. In my opinion, it's not that complicated to understand, and it had to be written in a way that was appropriate for such action, and I believe maybe we need to vote as to whether we want to move forward. So I'd like to move that we move forward to the second reading with this.
So we're not going to move this into policy today?
No, we're just moving to the second reading, and then at the second reading, is that correct, Mr. Wellerman?
That is correct, and because according to your board rules, all policies go through a first reading and then a second reading unless you decide to waive the second reading. A motion for a second reading is not required. It will happen automatically unless you decide to do something different.
Okay.
Personally, there's a motion on the floor that hasn't been seconded.
I can revoke that motion, and we can go to, if we would like to approve it on the first reading.
That's my recommendation, that we go ahead and move forward, because this is the same policy that was passed unanimously with the absence of Ms. Story at a public meeting. It's the policy that was recommended. It's the policy that we've been talking about since January, and we need something in policy that holds all of us to the fire. No exceptions. It's not targeting anyone. I don't want to be misconstrued nor misinterpreted. It's not targeting anyone. This same policy governs us all. So my recommendation would be that I move that we waive the second reading and adopt the norms and protocol into policy today.
Second.
Yes, second.
Second.
I recommend that we do not do that. I think we're
Motion
making, I know, I'm speaking to the motion.
Call for the question.
The motion on the floor now from Mr. Riddick, seconded from Dr. Brooks Buck, is to move forward with this policy as a first reading and adoption. Is that correct?
Yes.
Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
No.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
No.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Chairman Byram?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item is public speakers on non-agenda topics, and we have Mr. Kevin Alston. on Superintendent Qualifications.
Good evening. Recently, I read that the school board decided on the qualifications that should be possessed by the new superintendent. I believe that several important qualifications were overlooked. The first of those is the need to have a superintendent who has a true concern for the school division. I feel that the citizens of Suffolk deserve a school leader who will consider their concerns and take the appropriate actions in dealing with those matters. On March 9th, 2017, I brought to the attention of the superintendent and the school board the unauthorized destruction of thousands of dollars worth of school board property. Memorabilia from schools closed in Nansemond County and Suffolk, such as Suffolk, John F. Kennedy, Forest Glen, Southwestern, Chuckatuck, East Suffolk, Holland, and Whaleyville High Schools, was thrown in the garbage under the unauthorized direction of someone in this school division. Yet nothing to date has been done to correct this atrocity. The trophies before you were salvaged from a trash dumpster by a former student and delivered to their former coach. One of those trophies is a state championship trophy won by John F. Kennedy in track and field. How can a superintendent or a school board allow this to happen without investigating and holding someone responsible for the reimbursement or replacement of these items? The second quality, and in my opinion the most important, is for the new superintendent to have strong ethical beliefs and values for the dignity and rights of others. He or she must do the right thing, even if it hurts them in the process. They should not be so concerned with self-promotion that they fail to let the school board know when they are taking an inappropriate action. I have seen a school board act unethically, and the interim superintendent, to my knowledge, fail to do the right thing. I have a copy of a letter dated October 26, 2010, sent to Ms. Jacqueline Chavis regarding a notice of intent to employ. The letter states, "Dear Ms. Chavis, the Suffolk City School Board hereby issues this notice of intent to employ you as the Deputy School Superintendent for Suffolk Public Schools, effective January 1, 2011. This intent to employ is contingent on the school board appointing a school superintendent at its meeting set for November 8, 2010, who in turn will recommend to the school board that you be hired for the position of Deputy School Superintendent." Now, you may think that there wouldn't be a problem with such a letter, but at that point in time, the position of Deputy School Superintendent for Suffolk Public Schools had neither been opened for hire nor interviews conducted to do so. It gets worse. I have also with me, through the Freedom of Information Act, receipts paid for hotel, rental car, and gas totaling $488.78 paid by Suffolk Public Schools for Ms. Chavis to drive to Suffolk and meet with the interim superintendent on November 6, 2010. Shouldn't a vote to approve those funds be brought up in open session? I know Mrs. Story has had concerns about the school board being transparent in their actions. Her concerns seem to me to be more than valid. The board then conducted interviews that were a sham, being that the position had already been offered. They also allowed Ms. Chavis to interview by phone. You may think it couldn't get worse, but on the night Ms. Chavis was named Deputy School Superintendent for Suffolk Public Schools, board member Thelma Hinton made a motion to change the salary scale for that position from a high salary of $126,000 to a cap of $150,000. And then they gave Ms. Chavis a salary of $145,000, a raise of no less than $19,000 a year before she even worked the first day for Suffolk Public Schools to prove her worth. The job had been advertised at a salary high of $126,000, Ms. Chavis applied supposedly knowing the salary, so why was it changed? The reason was that Ms. Chavis was already making $135,000 in her previous position so that she could get a raise. This change in salary happened during a time when budget cuts were preventing teachers from receiving raises. The only board member to vote against this motion was Diane Foster. That means that you, Ms. Byram, the only remaining member of that board, voted for this. Is there anyone here tonight who believes these actions by the interim superintendent, or school board to be ethical or even legal? If so, stand. Just as I thought. I reported all of this to the State Department of Education and the Commonwealth Attorney, and they refused any action because they allow school boards to govern themselves. Knowing this, there needs to be someone with a moral compass to stand up and try to prevent such inequities and unethical behaviors regardless of their own consequence. I hope, for the sake of Suffolk Public Schools, a school division that I love, I went to school here from elementary to high school. I worked here for 39 years. I hope for the sake of Suffolk Public Schools that you find such a person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin, for your comments. Any other speakers? Have business by board members. Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you so much. I just want to say that, again, all the graduations that we went to, it was very rewarding and humbling to see the kids and be in that position to witness all that, as well as the parents. Even as far as the elementary school graduations, where they were going to middle school and then middle school to high school, and even the graduation of the GED. I just don't want anyone to think that no matter what level, we appreciate your graduations, you're going forward, taking that initiative to not give up, but to keep going until you reach your goal. And I'm also proud of our staff. We say that every month, and we say it because we don't want you to think that we do not appreciate what you do for the Suffolk Public School Board. We know it's not easy. It's a hard job. We're dealing with a lot of people, kids, the parents, grandparents, and a lot of different attitudes and personalities, but we get the job done, and we try to do the best that we can because we want to be the best school system in the 757. We don't always get it right, but we don't give up because we don't get it right. And when you have issues, we want you to come to us to give us the opportunity to see if we can solve these issues, and we appreciate that. And those who came forward, we appreciate everything you said. And again, we're here together, working as one to try to do the right thing for everyone. Our kids are first, number one. And if our kids are getting what they need, that means we're doing what we need to do down the road as far as the administrators, the teachers, and helping the parents as well. And again, we are here for you, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Mitnick?
Yes. First point, I'd like to ask that for our vision planning session, that we have a discussion on rezoning to even out the population in our schools. We've never had a discussion on rezoning. We voted on it, but there had been no discussions. And I think that before we would charge the acting superintendent to come up with a plan, that we should have a discussion and see what board members think about it. I'd also like to say that I hope this board can work at moving forward. There's a lot of stuff going on that upsets me, and there's a lot of work to be done for us to be able to move forward. At some point, we have to do that. We are stuck in a horrible place right now. And, you know, people can say to me whatever they want to, but we've got to get our act together, and we have to work together, and we need to respect each other and get out of this ugly hole that we're in. Thank you.
Ms. Mayo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too would like to thank all of our Suffolk Public Schools employees for their dedication and commitment to the education of our children. And I do appreciate Dr. Harrison for serving as our superintendent designee. And this is certainly a time of transition, and I'd like to thank you for your leadership. And it is important that we do work together during this time of transition, because this board does have a lot to do at this time. The school administrative office staff, as you prepare for another school year, and to all of our teachers and staff members who are working diligently this summer in various capacities, you are appreciated as well. I do look forward to the 2019-2020 school year and to promoting continued excellence for our schools. And remember, I too take this very seriously, that our children are first in all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayo. Mr. Riddick?
First and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of Suffolk Public Schools staff for doing the excellent job that you're doing. As I stated before, it's a cake. We are in transition. It's a transitional years. A lot of unforeseen changes has happened. And in making change, you're going to have some hurdles. I believe that we are moving in the right direction. Against what's being portrayed, we are moving in the right direction. We're working. We're communicating. Can it be better? Yes. But all we have to do is to continue to keep our focal point on our youth. That's why we're here, our children. One thing I do want to tell you all about is I had a meeting last week with some community stakeholders in the Suffolk Borough, and one thing that was recommended was the possibility of school uniform for elementary school students. I did what they asked me to do to relay that information to you all. I don't know how it's going to fly with parents, but some of the parents that were present did ask about the possibility of us looking into it, whether it's for this school year or the following, but they did want us to look into that matter. Also, in addition, I've been on the trail, and in the last 2 weeks, I have spoken with 14 community stakeholders, excluding the private meeting that I had with some of them, to try to re-engage our stakeholders to do satellite tutoring locations to help our youth move forward. One thing I will say is to anyone who's watching at home or is going to watch it later on or may read this in the newspaper, if you have any suggestions on things we could do better, please feel free to recommend. It's easy to identify a problem. Anyone can do that. But in moving forward, my personal request, I can't speak for the board, but my personal request would be, as you identify a problem, please come with a proposed solution. We know no one has all of the answers. We don't have all the answers. But if we're going to move forward We can't be teetering back and forth. 1 minute we here, 1 minute we're there, 1 minute we're saying this, next minute we're saying that. But we have to come to the table with an ingredient to help the cake get cooked and where it would taste well. Once again, I thank you all for, and especially to my constituents, I thank them for the opportunity that they have given me to continue to serve them.
Yes, I have a couple items. First of all, I went back, had the opportunity, had some time during the summer, and we had got this packet, basic parliamentary procedure that was given to us by Ms. Chavis, I believe. And in looking at the agenda, the order is, and I'm reading from this piece of paper here. It's a call to order, open ceremonies, optional, roll call, reading and approval of minutes, and then report of officers, which would be like our superintendent, boards, and standing committees. I would like it if we would follow this for our agendas for our board meetings and move committee reports, our standing committee reports up so that they're not tagged with our reporting here, that we actually have a time for standing committee reports. And if there are no committee reports, we can say pass. So I would like you to consider that, please, Chair, and look at that and see if we can put committee reports should be, as far as I know, always in the meeting. And if the committee doesn't have anything to report, they can just say that and move on. So if you would please look into that, I'd appreciate that. Then I would like to know, Chairwoman, I'd like to know what is the date for submitting items to be put on the August retreat? I'd like to know by what date do items need to be given to you to put on that?
I would think to prepare for the staff, if it's a staff report, that it should be given at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time.
3 weeks ahead of time, and then for items of discussion, like if we just want an item of discussion, like to discuss a policy, same thing, 3 weeks?
I would think.
3 weeks?
Yeah. 2
Okay.
weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. I just need to know so that I don't want to be.
Think that will work?
Is that okay?
Yeah. 2 to
That
3.
will work.
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, great, thanks. Then I would like if you would please report on the, I had a discussion about the copying, and if you would please report on that to that copy policy and the new copying, et cetera. Could you give us a report on that?
Want that added?
No, I would like it tonight.
Oh, tonight. Oh.
What you
Just give
had.
us a
Yeah,
overview.
just a brief overview, what you discussed. You said you were going to put out a memo. Just discuss what we discussed, what you,
Sure.
please.
And so, just to follow up, Ms. Story, on the copy project, and Ms. Forsman is actually not here this evening to provide an update on the project itself. I'd like to present on the actual project itself in the August retreat meeting, but we did share with one principals meeting this past week, and it was on the agenda for the meeting, but there are a few points that we need to clarify next week when we come back together for our cabinet meeting. And so I'd like to report out after we have a follow-up cabinet meeting to discuss some additional details that came to light after a discussion with some principals this week regarding the project.
Okay, what was given to me in the meeting by Ms. Forsman, and that was in an email, which is fine, was that the new copiers and the new copy project was implemented, and she mentioned Chesapeake as being one of the places that they looked at, had significant cost savings on the new copiers. It was also given to me, and we discussed this, that the copying charges would now be carried by Ms. Forsman and not at the school level anymore, but they would be done at her department. And that was, and then there is a copy project report here that says, I'll give the schools as of July 18th. Elephant's Fork has moved over to the copy project. Nasman River High School has, as of July 18th, has moved over. Florence Bowser, as of August 2018, has moved to the copy project. Colonel Fred Cherry of August 2018. JFK, January 2019. Kings Fork High School, February 2019. John Yates, February 2019. Nasman Parkway Elementary, March 19th. And Hill Point Elementary School, April 2019. And I believe Kings Fork High School as of March. Yeah, thanks, March. Okay, so just that for the minutes. Then I had asked for, I want to bring up, and I think the board members all got a copy of this. I asked through FOIA. I had asked 3 times, but then I just used the FOIA to do it since I hadn't heard back from anyone. I asked for the year-to-date report for the middle schools and high school, their allocation funds, what they were allocated, and then how much money had been allocated between the times of August, when the money was allocated, and December 31st. And so I have those reports here, and what it looks at is I was just interested in instructional funds. So if the money is allocated, then that would be under receipt, and then how much had been dispersed and given out, and then as of December 31st, what was the ending balance. And what I found really saddened me, I was extremely sad to find out that, many of the schools, in fact, one middle school, gave out no money at all in those 4 months to teachers, to math, to English, to social studies, to science. 0 monies of the allocated funds had been dispersed. And they had a pretty nice ending balance at the end. So, you know, I've been on this for a while. I tried my heart out as a teacher to find out why this district, when I taught in Wisconsin, why this district, there was just always reported no money available. And of course, as a taxpayer, that's just very frustrating because Suffolk pays a certain amount in taxes, and I think it's been frustrating to our city council who says we totally fund you, and then every year the teachers say they have no money. And if you are allocated, I will just take one for example. If you're allocated $19,000 and as of December 31st you still have $15,000 that you have not dispersed and given out and made available, I have a problem with that. I have a problem when it's all zeros. That makes me very, very sad for our students and very sad for our teachers. And I know that there are PTAs, there are volunteer groups working their heart out to try to provide paper. And here, as best as I can tell, because this is a 4-year endeavor to find out why is there no money at the schools? And so teachers, I will speak from my experience as a teacher, often by October, we get the word from administrators, well, we haven't gotten the funds from downtown yet. And I worked really hard to find out from Ms. Forsman that that's not true, that the funds are there. I don't know, I'm not even going to try to guess why they're not dispersed, but I do know that our schools, our principals do not make out budgets. They do turn in a wish list. I asked to see the budgets in September once I got on the board, and I was given a long wish list, and these are really high-end items, wish lists. But the superintendent did not give me any budgets. He just gave me the wish lists. If there are budgets that really are turned in, I would love to see them. I don't know why he wouldn't have turned them over at that time when I asked for them, but all I saw was the wish list, and I think it was very, very frustrating when we were at our meeting in February, if you remember. I expressed disappointment over this when we were at our joint meeting up at the VSBA, and I said all I saw were wish lists, and, you know, the executive sort of laughed and said, wish lists? What's that? So maybe there are budgets out there. If there are, that schools turn in, I would love to see that budget, and I would like to see what funds are allocated in each of the categories. And then I guess my question is, if they have made a budget, then why doesn't that appear? As soon as they get their money, that money should be budgeted out according to what they budgeted. And what they get. Now, I want to compliment Forest Glen. Forest Glen actually took that allocated money and dispersed it into the different funds. I know that teachers, some teachers know that they can go in and ask for things. I'm not saying they can't ask, but I think I'm asking for a new way of looking at this, because this is FOIA-able information, and for taxpayers and for our citizens, they should be able to go in, ask for this information, and allocated money should appear distributed, and it should appear the amounts that was distributed for science, for English, for social studies, should be very obvious. So I'm really not looking for a response. I'm sure some things I've said are very alarming, but it's alarming to me to get this report and see zeros, and when I got him in the meeting, it was alarming at that time too. I just think that until this board, one of our major duties of oversight is in areas of finance. We have been commissioned to manage and control funding, and we must see that allocated funds are available when our teachers hit the door, and that they are told immediately the funds they have in this first allocation, which is 80%, they need to know and have the comfort of knowing when they return to an empty classroom that they are able to use funds that have been allocated for schools. And I think that will go a long way towards improving teacher morale, rather than the standard, we have no money, so we're out there begging. I don't think that's appropriate, and that was very concerning to me. And I am sure there will be some clarifications after this, but nonetheless, this is black and white. And we have to change how this at least looks. And it's just, there's not an accounting for science, how much our board has said that student achievement is number one, and you can't have student achievement without allocating funds. And I need this to look different next year. I need this to look different. And if there's budgets being turned in, then I don't know why I wasn't given those, but I'm asking again. I'm asking to see the budgets that principals make and to see what percentages of the allocated funds are going where.
If I may, Madam Chair, just
Yes.
in the, what we will do for the August retreat is provide a more complete report on the budget process, and we'll make recommendations for the upcoming school year for the board's consideration. But I do want to just say that when sharing this type of information, it's important to add context, and I think that's what we'll do in August, is make sure that there's some additional context, and we're always open to improvement in areas, but I do think having having additional context when sharing information is important. Thank you.
And I don't mind
And
that.
I'd like-
Wait a minute. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. But at all. And I want additional context, and I want the full information, and I'm really glad that you're willing to be transparent with it all. Yet, when someone FOIAs this, as citizens, we have to be cognizant of how it appears and how we are spending money and how we are giving it to our teachers. We can't just say it. It has to be apparent, because our citizens also can't have all the context of a meeting. So I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm not saying I have full context, but I am saying that this, how it looks, doesn't look good. And I know as a teacher, and you can't take that away from me, you cannot take 12 years of teaching in this district away from me, that I can't tell you how many times we were told from day one there's no money. And that has been on my heart, because I never worked when I worked in Wisconsin, we knew what money we had from day one. And when teachers enter classrooms, they have needs, and I would like them to know the money they have available that has been allocated and budgeted. And I think we as a board need to be able to see, it's funny, it says, this was another thing we were given, and I'll end with this. Our fiduciary duty: each school board shall manage and control funds made available to school boards for public schools and may incur costs and expenses. What this means is the school board determines how the funds are to be spent. And I think that our spending should reflect our priorities. And I have full confidence that come August, we're going to have a really good time with trying to make sure that we are transparent, that our reporting is indicative of what we are doing, and that we can have oversight to see that funds are being used where we want them to being used for the benefit of our students to have a really good chance at succeeding. And that's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
Two things. I think Ms. Forsman addressed allocations over several different meetings with the board. She gave information concerning that, explained the process, how it's done per pupil, and so forth. Another thing I'll say, many moons ago, I was a teacher, and I taught at Nansemond River High School, and I was department chair at that high school, and I had various principals over a period of many years. And during that time, each year, when department heads met for their cabinet meeting, we were given our allocation up front. We were told how many dollars we had for social studies. I was in the social studies history department. We were given that information up front. I believe personally that has not changed in many years. I think it is still the process that is being used, but maybe we need to check on that. But I know we were given allocated money. We were told exactly, this is the number of dollars you have. 80% should be spent by such and such a date, and board, teachers could come to the chairman or could fill out purchase orders, and we move forward with approval. So I speak to that, from my history. But I think that is a concern, and so we should look into some of those details and report back on it. Dr. Harrison.
Yes, and we will do that in August at the retreat.
Thank you very much. Dr. Buck?
I have been, oftentimes I talk, but I listen as well. And I've heard some things that concern me. And because I am a researcher, I look at data, hard data. And I'm holding in my hand hard data. So all things were wrong and all things were falling apart. Believe me, our kids would not have gotten almost $25 million in scholarships. That's number one. Number two, we're adults, and we all are going to have to, at some point in our collective careers, to agree to disagree. We have to do it with courtesy, and we have to do it with respect for one another. I could, and I have, in the 7 years I was on the board, I wasn't here when all of this occurred, but I have, in the years that I've been on the board, heard concerns, and as I explored those concerns and looked at context, I found that, as human beings do, their interpretations are often different. Every board member is given every dime we spend. There's a printout that comes with our board packet, every dime we spend. I could not, and I've been a researcher for quite a few years now and taught research courses, I could not look at what we get and what we spend and say this was definitely for science and it wasn't for anything else, or this was definitely for math or it wasn't for anything else, or it wasn't for whatever. But if anyone wants to do that, they may go ahead and do that. As far as I understand, and I did ask for an interpretation of FOIA, and in the interpretation, I understood, and correct me, Mr. Waller, if I'm incorrect, that you cannot FOIA a report that doesn't exist. In essence, if nobody has gone through all these reports to try to determine exactly which pennies were spent for whatever, it's not there, it doesn't exist. However, when researchers FOIA reports, they go through and look through at everything, and they also interview people to get context, and so that would be my recommendation. Now, to move forward, as I said, I am very happy with the results that I have seen. When I heard, Mrs. Bradshaw, what you reported, and when I sat through graduation, and when I listened to students come before us, I realized that the proof is in the pudding. The results are here, and you don't get these kind of results if everybody's just stumbling around not knowing what they're doing. You just don't, it doesn't work that way. Facts tend to matter. I think that there are people who, no matter what we do, who are in the public, I'm not addressing anyone on the board, who would not be pleased. My mother passed away this week, and one of the things she used to say is that there were people who wouldn't be satisfied if their jobs were tasting pies in a pie shop. They'd be displeased with that, and some people do find discomfort with a lot of things. So there are some people whose opinions we will never change. However, as long as we stick to the facts and stick to information and look at information in the context in which it should be presented, we'll be fine. The other thing that I would like to do is apologize to you, because I saw some information, Dr. Harrison, that suggested that over the July 4th holiday, several reports were requested. That is not what we do. If you are out for the July 4th holiday, you're celebrating Independence Day, you're off for the weekend, whatever, we do not make demands of you. And that needs to be made clear, because that's something that just should not take place in our school division. Now, I want to add to what Mrs. Jenkins said. I want to ditto what she said. You all have done a great job this year. I want you to continue to do it. I listened to some conversations, and I tend to think that in the different places I've lived, and I've taught in 4 states and West Germany, people manage school budgets differently. They look differently. There are a lot of things that are different. And so I don't try to compare apples, oranges, and pears and make them all bananas. It just doesn't work that way. And we'll find that it doesn't work that way. But we want to make clear that we're committed to doing whatever it is that we're supposed to do. I don't think there's anyone here who doesn't want to do that. I think all of us want to do that. And as long as we want to do it, we might broach the path in a different way, but we'll get there. All I have to say to you is thank you. We had a great year, and I hope we have a better year next year.
A couple of things, ditto to many things that have been said here. Our staff is doing a great job. We appreciate you. We know there are a lot of summer programs, workshops, extra duties that people have taken on, and we appreciate the job that they're doing. We can't do it without you, and we are moving in the right direction. One thing that I particularly like about this, and thank you, Ms. Bradshaw, for working on this, because I know you're working on a lot of things come under your umbrella. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I was at the GED awards ceremony, and I was very touched, and I think I mentioned this to Dr. Harrison. I'm going to mention it again because this is the reason I'm here, and I don't mind telling anyone. There was a young man, and I'll tell a little story. There was a young man that received his GED. That young man had been before Mr. Copeland, Ms. Bouchard, Dr. Buck, and myself many times. He had been before Mr. Boone many times. He had been to Mr. Bynum at Turlington Woods many times. Dr. Rice, who's not here this evening, had worked diligently with that young man. We had done and moved many mountains to make him a success. He walked across the stage, he got his GED. We were out in the vestibule before the reception talking, and I was congratulating Dr. Harrison on a great speech, a motivational speech that she gave. And I talked to Mr. Wagner and drifted on out and had a few refreshments, talked to some of the people, and then I decided, well, my husband was having some tests done and I needed to scurry over to the hospital and pick him up. So I left maybe a little abruptly, but on the front, going out, there stood that young man. There stood that young man. And I walked over to him to shake his hand. And I shook his hand, and I said, "Do you remember me?" He said, "Yes, Ms. Byram, I remember you. Many times I've seen you. Many times with my mother, I have seen you." And he said, "I just want to say one thing to you. Thank you so much for not giving up on me. Not giving up on me." That's what this school system is about. We don't give up on people. We don't do everything perfect, but we don't give up on people. And then I reached my hand out to shake it. He said, "No, I want to hug your neck." So that was the topping on the cake for me for this, right here. And the next thing he said, "Oh, by the way, I have a job." Mm-hmm. And when he said that, that was enough to make me want to do this and keep doing this, They're the rewarding moments that make this worthwhile. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I will stay here. As I told Mr. Riddick, you have to, sometimes there are things that we don't appreciate, there are things that we know we have concerns about, but there are reasons for us being here. There are reasons for all of you being here. And you know what your job is. And we don't always do everything perfect, but we are attempting to do that. And, we get feedback from surveys, we get feedback from the public, we get emails, all these things. These things help us do a better job. And that is what we are about. Another item I did want to mention, Dr. Buck did lose her mother this week, and we want, as a board, to offer our condolences to her family. You're in our prayers, Dr. Buck. Thank you. And I've spent many hours with Mama in conversation, and I know she's going to be missed. She had 97 years of wisdom, and I thank her for that. I offer my condolences. Thank you. Any other comments? Next, we need a motion, I believe, Mr. Waller, to go into closed meeting.
Motion is needed to go into a second closed meeting to discuss the following items and subjects pursuant to Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. The discussion and/or consideration of the personnel report regarding specific individuals, and more specifically as relates to, number one, recommendations for the transfer of administrative personnel, and number two, evaluation of the school board attorney, all of which is authorized by Section 2.2-3711(2) of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Reddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Chairman Byram,
Yes,
motion carried.
and we will adjourn for second closed meeting. Thank you.